This podcast brought to you by Basecrete, leaders in waterproof bond coatings for the swimming pool and construction industry.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. Today I'm here with mosaic tile artist Danilo Bonazza and the founder of the Tile Doctor, Curt Rapp, U.S. distributors for Lidocol, the makers of the world's premier tile setting and grout products. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Hello, everybody.
Now, Danilo is a frequent guest on the show, and I know he's a big fan of your products, Curt. We'd like to talk a little bit more about that. But first, why don't you give us a little bit of start and talk about your role in the pool industry and how you first founded the Tile Doctor.
Well, the Tile Doctor was founded in 2000. I took a sort of a semi-retirement from the tile industry. I was running the tile business for Home Depot, and I just got really kind of burned out on big companies and decided to start my own company. And we really just started it as an informational website because there was so much sort of thirst for knowledge out there about people wanting to learn how to do tile. I've been born into the business. My father was one of the first people to import tile. He did it from Italy back in the 70s. So worked in the warehouse there. So anyways, I started Tile Doctor really just, as I said, an informational website, and it sort of morphed into, then, okay, how do we make a living? And we started looking at products that sort of meet that mantra of the healthy wellness remedies and solutions, which is what Tile Doctor is. And we have always looked for those types of products that are very sustainable and that fit into that mantra. And Lidocol is exactly that. It's not only high performance, but it's very environmentally friendly. So,
yeah, I mean, you're not just in the pool industry either. I know that you're all over. You're in kitchens and baths, and you're very involved in the NKBA. So it's not just the pool industry you're focused on, but anything that has to do with tile as a whole. Isn't that right?
Yeah, and we have a special emphasis because of the traits of the product on glass, and then we started to get a lot of phone calls from people in the pool industry that said, hey, I heard you have the Lidocol products. How do we get them? And I really hadn't looked into it. And I attended a pool show years ago that was in New Orleans. And just to kind of understand the business, and I was talking to people, and I would ask them, do glass tile? And that some people would just hold up their hands and cross them and say, no, won't touch it. But others who I met at the show, a lot of them were involved in these educational programs. If you ask them if they do glass, they'd lean in and say, oh, what do you got? Because generally they've been involved in some failures and were very interested in learning more about how to set glass without failures. And that's where we really started to turn our focus on the glass in pools, is because of the high performance nature of this product and how it solves problems. Because I've run into a lot of people that just think because they're doing glass tile in pools, they're going to have failures, and that's not the case.
So how long have you been focused on pools, Curt?
So it was about 4 years ago I started getting these phone calls, and when we started getting a lot more of the Lidocol products brought in that Danilo will tell you about, he's known Lidocol longer than I have. We started to focus because I was getting these calls, as I said, and people were saying, well, I need this for my pool, I need that for my pool. And next thing you know, sometimes I'm air freighting $6,000 worth of grout to solve an issue on a pool. Mm-hmm. So that's where the business really started to surface for us. This is an area we should really look hard at. So about 4 years.
Yeah, I've spoke with Danilo before about Lidocol and about the Tile Doctor, and I know he swears by your products. I know they play a big factor in the success of the artistic tile installations that he does. So maybe, Danilo, you can give us a little bit of insight as to which products you're using and the type of support you get over from the team at Tile Doctor.
Yes, so there's three main products that I'm really focusing on, and sometimes even something else, but, depending on the needs. But the three main products that I use are the Lithoelastic, which is an epoxy bright white adhesive that has beautiful properties. The first one is very non-sagging. It's easy to use and mix. It's not super tough on your hands and everything else. It bonds perfectly well, has non-sagging properties. And the fact that it's so bright white really enhances the colors of the mosaics, especially the one that are translucent, even if they're colored, but they have some sort of like transparencies. So if you don't have a bright white base behind it, it will show. So that's obviously a plus. Also, I'm using the lino grouts, which are vibrant colors, beautiful. I love also, the special ones, the crystal that I use a lot. And whenever I have a lot of multiple colors combined together, so in a lot of my artistic pieces, there's a lot of, 15, 20, 30, 50 colors combined with the shadowing and everything else. So choosing a grout color, it's pretty much impossible. And it's always a mistake because, if you choose a dark gray or black, it shows horribly in the lighter colors of the mosaics, in the whites and the yellows. And if you choose a white or a very light gray, then in the black or darker colors of the tiles, it shows just horrible. So when they started come up with the crystal, it was the perfect solution. There's a little bit of a learning curve in how to use it and, what the features are. But if you pay attention to the instruction and you just, do your test and everything, you'll be totally fine. And I just love it. And then you can also mix it with a bunch of, Curt calls it jewels. It's a line of pretty much glitters that they're using, different colors that you can mix with this translucent grout. So you can make your own colors, your own shades and all that stuff. So it's just unique. You can actually custom make it. It's great. And also I'm using the auto seal for the expansion joint. So it's a silicone grout, pool grade. So all the expansion joints and everything else, and they can match the grout colors that they have. So, it's the perfect line to do pool installation. So that's pretty much, these are the three products that I use on a custom basis. There's no one project of mine that doesn't have these three products. It doesn't matter if it's a pool or even, some of the famous last art pieces that I did, the Jimi Hendrix and the Marilyn Monroe. Mm-hmm. I installed them on wood with little elastic. And then when it was dry, I grouted with the crystal grout. So, and then I created the frame and sold it. So I'm using these products all the time.
These were the products you were using back in Italy, right, bro?
Yes, I was using it in Italy way before I was living here in the States. So my research, I never stopped researching for my project, especially if you're talking about pool. We know how careful we have to be because, water obviously creates a lot of issues. So we need to really research and use the best products on the market. So I started doing big researches about pools in the 90s and coming up with, mixed brands and here and that. And I found my own pretty much solutions. And then when new brands or new products were coming out, I was always doing my own tests because I never trust. It's great having laboratory tests, but you also have to test on the field. So I was doing my own private test on Hardy Becker boards and submerging with chemicals, all these products and see how they would perform. And then I found out finally in the early 2000s about Lithophil and what they were producing. And then I tested and I was extremely pleased with the result. Then in 2006 and 2007, I started coming to the United States for a couple of big projects. And then when I decided to move, I was like, shit, now what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. So then every time I was going back and forth every month, I was loading my suitcase with epoxy grout and epoxy adhesive.
So you're an epoxy smuggler.
Yeah, pretty much. I was an epoxy smuggler. And, I'm making my way around here and sometimes really catching flights and going back to Italy just for the purpose of grabbing, few more extra buckets for my next project. And I was just doing back and forth. And, sometimes I was trying to ship it out, a couple of pallets and stuff like that. So it was a little struggle until 6-7 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but I was told by Lithophil and also another glass tile brands that sometimes I'm collaborating with that, somebody started importing Lithophil and they gave me Curt's name, who I called right away. And then from there was business all the time. I never looked back and never bought another adhesive since.
Yeah, well, that's awesome that he's able to support you in that capacity and that they're carrying the products that you need.
Yeah, but one of the aspects is not only the product itself, which is obviously essential, but it's also the assistancy and the customer service that you get from the company, right? So obviously Lithophil stays behind their products, but also Curt does. And he a couple of times he helped me out. Like, for example, at a project in Texas, as you know, you interviewed Design Ecology, Scott and Ben, who are great guys. I did a project over there and, the owner at the last minute, he changed his mind about the grout color and the product has a lot of waste. When I said product, I mean like the tile that I installed. They're very thick and very small. So there's a lot of grout. And I called Curt and he told me that that specific ground color, which is like almost, not all the colors are used in the same quantities. There are some that are more on the market and some others just like very few people are buying. So that was one of the colors that it's not that used. So he doesn't obviously keep in stock like huge amount of quantities, but in this case, the quantity that I needed was way beyond. So Curt helped me out. We imported this stuff air freight. So we got it here in a week. And, he pretty much helped me out in the expenses. We split it in half, which, most people don't do, but Curt does.
Wow.
So because, he wants to help us, help his clients. So that was great. It's a great customer service and it's really appreciated. And that's why he's got my back as well. Every time I can support the brand, I'm happy to do it because it's the right thing to do.
Hey, can you speak to that a little bit more too, Curt? And I'll just cut that in.
What Danilo was talking about with the products, the Lido Elastic you mentioned, that is really sort of a one-of-a-kind type of product in the world. It's an epoxy polyurethane. We refer to it as a hybrid. It allows glass to expand and contract because it's going to do that. And that's why you have the risk of failure is you have glass that, especially on vanishing edge, infinity edge type applications where you have the heat that takes place. You have extreme expansion and contraction that takes place, and all the Lidocol products are engineered to work with glass and high stress applications, but specifically the Lido Elastic. I tell people if you're doing anything that's a vanishing edge or type of application, you always want to set it with the Lido Elastic. And, I get call after call, week after week of people that say, hey, I've torn this edge out twice now, and people keep telling me I need to call you. So what do you got? And that's where we get involved. And it's really a problem solver for glass because everybody wants to use glass. Not everybody can do it successfully. So that's one of the things that we do, when we do the glass tile clinics is we teach how to use those products. And Danilo being the most familiar with it, as he spoke to, that's a product that I don't think he does anything without it anymore that I'm aware of. And we do a lot of very helpful things that he talked about because we're in this business long term. As I said earlier in there, I'm second generation in the tile business. We don't approach anything for just tomorrow. Everything is long-term vision down the road. How can we have a better experience? Because it comes back to you twofold when you help people out. And that's what we try to do. The products speak for themselves, but Danilo said without the customer service, you can still fall flat. And that's where we try to really help out. While we're talking right now, I've got a pool builder in Florida that's asking me what grout color I should recommend for his pool. So we get some interesting requests, but we enjoy it for sure. So
no, I know you're very hands-on with the builders, Curt, and I know you travel quite extensively supporting the guys in the industry. I saw, you're a 2 million man mark. That's pretty telling, You clock 2 million miles up in the air, flying around the world, supporting the products that you sell. It's very telling,
Yeah, there's not anything that we have here that I haven't touched, physically done myself. I don't believe anybody. Just like Danilo says he tests everything, we do the same. And, the funny story about Lidocol, when we first approached them to see if we could bring it to the U.S. market, the owner said, no, I'm just not really interested in your market because you guys are too litigious. Mm-hmm. And he said, I just don't want to be sued. So it took us a while. My business partner is Italian. He's one of the top R&D people in the world. We ran R&D for a company called Daltile for 23 years.
No, I know Daltile very well. Yeah.
That's what we look for, unique products and things like that. And we were able to finally convince Mr. Cadafavi to allow us to bring the product to the U.S. market with some reluctance. But, we've done it. And it's been a raging success in the pool industry because of the high function of the product. We've got a lot of people that use the product exclusively now that, we win people over one at a time. There's systems that have been around for a long time that when people are used to using one manufacturer and the risk of failure is so expensive that it's very difficult to get somebody who's happy with the product to make a change. They've got to have a reason. And then that's when we get the call. And as one Southern guy used to say, once I got my toe in the tent, it's all over. So, then we start to talk to them about it and then, show them the products. And most people, when they use the Lidocol products, they say, God, I wish I would have done this a year or two ago, would have saved me a lot of trouble on the other side. But so anyways, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Hey, Curt, I read recently that Tile Doctor was awarded a patent. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technology you patented for the Tile Doctor Shield and what that's all about?
Yeah, we have a couple of unique patents. We've actually won 2 Edison Awards, which is something that no other company's ever done. In 2011, for the Shield, we won for the first hard surface version of a antimicrobial that has been around since the 70s. Dow Corning invented it and kept it in the textile industry. And we got on the scene and we're trying to figure out how to make it work for hard surfaces. In 2011, we won an Edison Award for that the same year that Apple won for iPad and Coca-Cola for freestyle vending machines. We kind of pride ourselves in innovation and look at things where others maybe don't look. We got our patent on it in 2018, but we still couldn't find interested people that considered antimicrobials a necessary product that they would pay for. And that's changed quite a bit now.
Yeah, I saw that you're creating a disinfecting and sustainability program for health clubs and gyms and spas, right?
Yeah, we've got a couple of private label agreements we're working on right now that are going to be a big deal. And we sell the product ourselves to companies that go into gyms and schools, and they disinfect, but then they apply our product, which works for 90 days, is what we're allowed to claim by the EPA. We've actually got data shows that it's pretty much permanent. It changes the surface of whatever it touches and makes it not only less likely to get infected by things like viruses and MRSA and stuff like that, but it actually makes the surface literally kill on contact and you can't see it.
So that's kind of ironic, though, that you were coming out with this product directly ahead of the COVID-19 pandemic and that it actually, it all kind of came together right around the same time. Has COVID-19 seen a new influx in business for you on that end?
Yes, we just received literally 4 days ago new label enhancements from the EPA that we've been working on for over a year because of the COVID. It's difficult to make antiviral claims.
Mm-hmm.
We've got plenty of data that shows the product works. It's just getting the emergency use declaration is difficult, but we just added food contact to our label and some other things that allow us to sell this into many other industries and many other applications because there's nothing else on the market. Once you disinfect, the surface can be reinfected immediately. So our product, when you lay it on afterwards, when it's not even a penny a square foot, you put it on afterwards, you've got a surface that actually is self-sanitized. So it works in between cleanings.
That's really interesting. I know that you and Danilo are both members of Tributary Revelation. Can you tell us a little bit more about your involvement with Tributary and why you joined and what you do to support the other members of that organization?
Yeah, pretty well-known glass tile installer out in California invited us to be involved in it. Jimmy Reed, he's involved in Tributary, and he started using the Lidocol products and invited us. And it's been really a great association for us just to get into some of the top influencers to be able to see the product. A couple of years ago, before COVID, they actually made a trip to Italy, and we went to the Lidocol factory. And then Danilo actually walked us through the Siccius factory in Ravenna, Italy, gave us the tour. He knows more about that than I do, so he gave us the tour through that. So we went out to the birthplace of Mosaics, which is where Danilo's from, Ravenna, Italy, and toured that facility. So that they're a group that's really interested in, the relationship of the manufacturer to try to get more learning done that way. I know there's a lot of other groups in the pool industry that we haven't really got involved yet. We just got invited by Tributary, and it's been a great relationship for us.
Hey, Curt, you guys got any new products coming out in 2022? I mean, what's next for Tile Doctor?
Yeah, we do. Spazio Continuo. It's translated, that's Italian, meaning continuous space. It's the latest product coming out of Lidocol, and it addresses this really big trend that's happening in Europe of these seamless finishes. So what people may call Venetian plaster or those type of effects, but it's not a paint. It's a resinous finishes, some metallics and other bright colors and other things, but it's used very, very, very much over in Europe where they don't do the tile. They'll actually use these trowelable finishes to make these, I call kind of a loft look, very seamless. It's big right now in Europe. And that's what we're going to be launching late this year. We were going to launch it in coverings in April, but, that's all delayed now till July. But the Italians aren't really able to get here for the convention yet. So the launch is going to be a little bit delayed, but we're looking forward to launching that new product. And we've got some additional things just to help with the grouting and installation, some new tools and things that are coming in also. But the Spazio Continuo is going to be the big launch for us coming up.
We'll be on the lookout for that one. Honestly, I appreciate you guys giving me the time today to talk about Tile Doctor and to talk about Lead a Call. I know the industry as a whole is really hot on the product, and to hear the two of you guys be able to talk about it, support it, I think is really great for the industry.
Of course, anytime. And, we support what Pool Magazine is doing. I think you guys are doing a great job in trying to, as far as communication, as far as education, which is a big thing, very important. Obviously, there's a lot of ignorance in the field, and you guys are trying really to do your best to just, go to the bottom of every problem and talking to the right people and exposing the issues and understanding why it's happening and how to solve it and everything else. And so, Curt and I will always be available, for any sort of information and how we can help to, grow the business and grow the education in the field.
We appreciate you guys' support. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
That's all the time we have today. A huge thank you to our sponsor, Basecrete, the leaders in waterproof bond coats for the swimming pool industry. Please make sure to subscribe, and we look forward to catching you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.